Welcome to this video. I've been asked a number of times by some customers how I paint my laser cut bricks and do the mortaring. So as I'm at home this week because the family is off with COVID and I'm sort of like kind of staying out the way, I thought I'd have a go. So these are two O gauge parts to the Ipswich Freightliner building that I was doing. These are two spare parts. So what I'll do is I will show you the two different ways that I do mine. The first part to do is always the same, and that is to prime your bricks. And the best solution that we found is using Halford's primer. In this particular case, because it's brick, we'll be using a red primer, and it's the Halford's red oxide primer. It's about £8.50 a can now. It used to be £7, but like everything else, it's gone up. And you just need to do a few light coats to cover the bricks and allow that to dry. And there you have your two panels primed in Halford's red oxide primer. I'm going to allow those to dry for a couple of hours before we move on to the next part. Now that they're well and truly dry, it's time to paint some bricks, the boring part. And I tend to use colours from the Artiste range of acrylic paints, get them from the range. They're about £1.80 a pot. And I've got clay, sanguine, rouge, chocolate brown. You can use any colours you like, oranges, reds, or there's loads of different colours, but these just happen to be the ones that I tend to use on bricks. And all I'm going to do is I'll start off with the chocolate brown, and I'll most probably dab all over the bricks and then wipe off, and then individually paint a load of bricks in the other three colours just to sort of like really lighten it down. The more you look at bricks, the more sort of like orangey they are rather than a red. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to individually paint a number of bricks. I'm doing two. I'll randomly paint them. They don't have to be exactly the same, but the methods after this will be slightly different to show you the two different effects that you get. So I'm going to paint those. You don't need to see me do that. This is mind-blowingly boring. You need a very small paintbrush, and obviously these are O gauge bricks, so you can paint these fairly easily. Double O gauge is a lot harder. You might need a magnifying glass. N gauge, don't even go there. So we'll have a go at this and we'll come back and show you when that's done. So the first layer is just literally a dab of the chocolate brown paint on there, bit of sponge, dab it in, and then just randomly go all over it just to give it some effects. And then obviously then that's going to allow that to dry. I'm going to carry on using the same board. This dries in minutes, so then I'm going to start using different colors, individually paint them, and I'll show you as I go along. Right, so we've got to the stage where we've individually painted some bricks in some different colors. As you can see, they're not an exact match, no point doing that. So we've got two options now. The first option is to really go to town and make all the colors blend in. The others are to fairly keep it as it is. So on the top one, I'm going to go and varnish this one as it is, and the bottom one we're not going to varnish. And then obviously then we could do some filler, and I'll show you the difference as to what happens. So I'm going to take the top one into the garage and give it a coat of matte varnish. I'll leave this one behind, and then once the matte varnish is dried, so they'll do this overnight, we'll come back and we'll continue with the process of what we do next. So we've got our two panels again. This is the one that I've sprayed matte varnish. I've just written an M on the back so I know which one had the matte varnish, and we're going to do the two effects. So with the matte, we're going to be using a all-purpose filler. So all I've just got is a tube of filler, and you don't often see white mortar, so we need to color it. So there's variations of color of mortar, but for this particular purpose I'm going to be using this Vallejo buff paint, which code is 70.976. So I'll squeeze some of the filler onto my piece of spare MDF, add a few drops of the buff paint, stir it all in, and that becomes ready for mortaring. So if I quickly do that, I'll come back once I've done that. Right, so there's my mixture of filler and paint all mixed up. So all I'm going to do now on the matte version is I'm going to coat the whole area. As it's not a huge panel, I can do it in one go. I'm just going to put some on and then literally rub my fingers all over it to manipulate it and move it into the crevices for the mortar joins. Once I've done that, I'm going to use some quality kitchen towel. Don't use cheap one, it will just fall to bits on you. A premium quality kitchen towel is ideal, and then I'm just going to wipe down in downward motions to remove the excess mortar and swap over towel as soon as it gets dirty, and I'll show you the end result. There we have the finished panel after wiping down a few times with some kitchen towel. After that, I just go over with a very, very light damp bit of sponge just to take any excess mortar off the top of the bricks, and then go over it again with a clean towel. And obviously this has got corner joins, so obviously you need to make sure that all the mortars come out of there. So I've just cleaned and tidied that up with a zippy blade and enough so if I actually were to fit the next part, they'd fit in there. So that's the one that was fitted, or should I say sprayed, with matte varnish. Let me now do this one and I'll show you what the effect is having no varnish on it. And there's my panel that has no mortar on, and you'll see that all the colours are kind of blended in together, more prominent than the one with matte varnish on. I'll show you the difference in a minute. So when you come to wipe off your filler, you will be taking off a bit of paint as well, so you will need to change your paper towel most probably a bit more on this one. So this gives you that effect, and obviously if you spray varnished your panel first and then mortar it, you'll see here, if I bring them closer together, how more prominent the one on the right hand side is, because obviously you've protected the brickwork, so it's laying on top and it keeps the colors separate. Whereas if you have no matte varnish, it'll tend to blend in. So if you're doing an older building, you're most probably better off doing that. If you're doing a brand new building and you want the mortar to stand out, then that's the way. Obviously when you come to join your pieces up on your building, then you've got to do your corners, and obviously you have to do those in exactly the same method and then just wipe it off as you go along. But that's the two methods that I use. I haven't used any other methods. I know a lot of people do. They use enamel paints, cream paints, and do it that way, but everybody does it differently. But that's the way I've done it. I've always used some filler, tends to work really well. It's just a bit messy, that's all. And if anybody has any other different ways, by all means stick it in the comments below. We're always happy to let people know what ways we do. There are lots of most probably videos online about doing mortar on your bricks, but again, if I show you up there where I've painted individual bricks, it tends to sort of blend in a bit more, and obviously then you can weather it if you want to, and that's more of a I want to see the mortar better effect. There you go. Hope that's helped anybody. Any questions or queries, please don't hesitate to contact us or comment below. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.